Ready? Hi, my name is Dale Adams of Planning Ahead of Time, and this week I'm speaking to Rob. Rob, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Rob Cornfield, and I'm the founder of MTW Estate Planning.
Okay, which is also known as My Trusted Wills.
Yes, that's what the MTW stands for. Yes.
Because I know to find you online, you're actually under mytrustedwills.co.uk, I believe.
Yes, that's the catch that allows you to find our website. Yes.
But you and I have met up a few times, and we've known each other a while now because you actually saw me on Facebook online, I think, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I saw your profile online, and because of what I do and the interests that I have, when I read through your profile, I really wanted to understand more and understand how what we try and bring to our clients could be enhanced to include proper preparation for when that inevitable time comes.
Yeah. Well, we've obviously met up, and I do like the bit before you. So I do the planning ahead of time, and then you're the person who actually puts that into place and makes sure that it's all legally binding, because you do LPAs and wills, don't you? And probably
Yeah.
more than that.
Yeah, sorry. We do lasting powers of attorney. We do wills. We do trusts, whether they are in a will or outside of a will, right the way through. And we can also offer probate assistance. So the key thing with, I think, the planning ahead of time is that it's to ensure that those that would be the primary wishes of the person making those documents are going to be carried out at times when they're unable to personally ensure that they are done. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's all about capacity, isn't it? And
Sorry, I was nodding there.
No.
I was nodding there. Absolute capacity
I'll say that
is
it's all about capacity, isn't it, really, for the clients?
absolutely. It's about the client putting things in place while they have capacity, because the moment that their capacity can be questioned, then it's too late. And my mum, God bless her, taught me 3 words that she said were the saddest words in the English dictionary, and they are, it's too late.
It's interesting, and it's actually really true, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, then there's just nothing you can do. And I mean, you and I have both recently worked with a client who I'd been speaking with a few months ago, really, about their elderly parents and how to help them with the situation they were in, because the dad is in a care home and the mum hadn't been very well. And the will that they had basically meant that all of the parents' money, there was a trust in place, but the parents' money would be going to the dad if anything happened to the mum and he was in a care home. And that would mean that they would basically take the house, or could force them to sell the house and have, in fact, I need to scrap that. I'm going into too much detail. Right. So this is all the editing that will need to go on.
You can ask me the question if you like, and I don't mind.
Well, you and I recently have actually worked together on a client that I had who'd spoken to me about planning ahead of time, because they had 2 elderly parents, one of which had gone into a care home and the other was really quite unwell, and their will left the estate to each other, and the children wanted to make sure that they could protect the family's money and the family's estate. And actually, you were then sort of called in to come and help with that.
Yes, and I had a conversation with one of the sons, and this actually took place last Saturday, and the urgency was expressed to me. And while the children were expressing what was wanted to happen, I had to explain to them that it had to come from their mother, because I can't take instructions from anyone other than the person who is creating a will or any documentation. So the big concern there was, did the mother have capacity to understand what they were doing, to understand what the actual estate comprised of, and who was going to be benefiting and not benefiting. They're known in my world as the three certainties. So my biggest concern was, though there was no sign of incapacity, would the medication that the mother was on preclude her from making a new document? It didn't. And we were able to write a new document that made the beneficiaries the children, and the husband was excluded from the will for precisely the reason that she did not want her legacy to be eaten up by the care system in caring for her husband when he was already being taken care of, and the funding for that was pre-approved and put in place. So that was really the main reason for doing this. But because of the health situation, it had to be done with great urgency. So on Tuesday of this week at 12:30 p.m, I actually took instructions via a remote meeting, a WhatsApp video call, so I could be certain that it was the lady who was making the instructions and giving the instructions, and she was able to give me a very clear and concise family tree. She was able to give me dates of birth for the children, and she could recall things in literally that morning as well. So that gave me a very clear view of capacity being there. I took the instructions. We created draft documents, which we emailed over. We then created the official documentation, bound it appropriately. I drove it up to the hospital where the lady was, and that document was signed and witnessed. And we even managed to find 2 independent witnesses for that, which was something that you were able to play a part in, Dale. And for that, I know that she is very grateful, as am I. But by 6:30 that evening, the new document was in place and was legally binding. So when I left her, she shook my hand, and she was very, very grateful for the speed at which we were able to do this. It's not ideal.
No, so the
Leaving it,
fact that even though physically she was losing capacity physically and losing ability physically, as long as she can be proven to be in full mental capacity to make the decisions that she understands and knows are right, then somebody, in this case the lady, but is able to actually change their will, change their decisions right up to their last breath, potentially, as long as they are lucid and have mental capacity up until that point.
absolutely. Yes, that is absolutely right. However, none of us know when that point is coming. None of us know when we're going to lose capacity. And just referring to the fact, don't leave it to the last minute, because a lot of people, unfortunately, in the industry I'm in, would charge a huge premium for doing that kind of work and have to clear their diary at that short notice. I don't believe that's the right way to handle these things. If you can plan ahead of time, that's critical. It really is. And it allows you then to put things in place. It allows for reviews to take place, because circumstances change.
Yes.
When the original will was created, for this lady and her husband, it couldn't be foreseen what was coming. So it's really important that as things in life change, these documents are reviewed. It's one of the reasons that we and I offer a no-fee will review service. And 9 times out of 10, we'll come away from that meeting having confirmed that actually all of the boxes have been ticked and that document is still relevant and will still provide what the what the person wants from their will, from their powers of attorney, etc. Things in life, say, they change, our financial situation changes, families change. It's key. It's key to have it done in time.
Yeah, I completely agree that people, every time as such there is a life change, people need to be looking and reviewing. I think I've expressed on here before that the will that I was giving out for my mum turned out to be the wrong one, because the one that I'd been given was from 2015. She updated it in 2019 and I wasn't given a copy of that. I didn't know that they'd done it. So I think it is very important that people keep on top of these things. And also, the moment somebody goes into care, or looks like, for me, they're going to go into care, people need to be considering their finances as well as their LPAs and their wills. I'm dealing with clients where either they haven't got an LPA in place and it's too late, or where they are still part of the LPA, with wills in place. But again, things are changing all the time, and it's a case of looking at the finances of somebody, because other than that, money will go into the care system. And sometimes it really doesn't have to, if people had taken a bit of time to actually look at it in advance. Whereas, it's £7,000 a month, roughly, for care home fees. And that's a lot of money to come out of somebody's estate. And people can be forced to sell their property to pay those fees unless they've got things in place, such as trusts and adjusted wills. And this is where really people need to be looking at their plans with somebody like me, and then saying, yeah, this is what we actually need to do. And then coming to somebody like you to say, let's make it legal.
Absolutely. And there are some things that are key to protecting these assets. Avoiding care home fees can never, ever, ever be the primary reason. If it is, then the local authority will challenge and they will win that challenge. Care home fees are just a very small part of the estate planning process. And an initial meeting, which we don't charge a fee for our initial meetings. An initial meeting is all about information gathering, looking to see what protections would be primary for the estate and the value of the estate. Blended families now are a huge thing. So ensuring that the people that you want to inherit your legacies do so and can keep that inheritance, rather than losing it to new relationships, perhaps children from their partner, from a previous relationship. There's all of those things, but yeah, there's care fees in there, but we need to be very, very careful when we put documents together, because if there's any intentional deprivation of assets, as it's known in law, then a local authority will challenge and they will win. And that's something that I am very, very passionate about, to make sure that things are done in the right way. And again, that's all a part of planning ahead of time.
Yeah,
because if you leave to last minute, you can't.
I do understand what you're saying with that, Rob, and I know again about the rules around not sort of moving money so that it's purposely taken and can't be used for care home fees. However, I also feel that it is a substantial amount when you've got elderly people going into care, And it is something, in my view, that really does need to be considered when my mum had the diagnosis of dementia, for example. It's something you need to look at and consider, because down the line, the chances are that she's going to need some care of some description, whether that's in-house or then obviously externally in a care home. And I think it's part of the planning process. I also understand what you're saying with regards to relationships. I know of another person recently where they were still married. So there was a relationship, they'd split up. They were both in new relationships, living with new people, but they weren't divorced. And then one of them died very suddenly, totally unexpectedly, basically dropped down, dead. And the problem you then have is they're still married. And actually, the will, etc., hadn't been changed. You have big scenarios where people don't necessarily think about the fact that, the will's there, it's in the background. Don't think about the fact that all of the will stated it should go to the husband, and that person was still married, but they were actually living with somebody else, and he was living with somebody else, although they had children together. And I think, so there is lots to consider. However, I also feel, for me, a lot of people don't look at it early enough when they know there's a terminal diagnosis, or somebody, again, is getting very elderly and they're starting to struggle, maybe living on their own, and they do need to be considering all of the options.
Absolutely. And it's why it's really important to involve a professional to prepare these documents. Because if something does go wrong, then if you're employing a professional who's qualified, you need to check that they have professional indemnity insurance, so that if something goes wrong, that insurance would cover that. It's key to doing so. And for me, it's one of the big reasons that I do this role and I fulfill this role, is that I want to help people and bring them the certainty and the comfort that things are in place, but also the support, so that without constantly sending emails, etc., trying to convince them to take further services, a very gentle reminder that actually the Ministry of Justice recommends that wills be reviewed maximum every 5 years, but they set a time between the second and third year as being the ideal time. A very little email just to say, remember, we mentioned this, that point is now upon us. Can we carry out the no-fee will review service for you? Whether you're a client of ours or you aren't a client, but we know of you, we would do that. As I say, 9 times out of 10, the boxes would be ticked and the document's fine. But in the situation that you've mentioned about the couple who were still married, but then had separated, had new relationships, etc., obviously a will review would have picked up on that and would have immediately highlighted, okay, well, you need to do this, this, and this. Part of it is to do with your wills. Part of it might be to do with life insurance. So that's the kind of advice that we would give at that time.
Yeah, I think it's so important. Well, as you know, it's why I do what I do, to actually try and say to people, think ahead. We think ahead about everything else. We're planning the next birthday, the next family gathering. We keep planning all of these events, and we really need to be planning beyond that, regardless of age, and saying, well, what would happen? Is everything in order, both for me emotionally and financially? I know to that end that you and I are actually working on a portal to enable people, again, to store all this information. I did it in the past, where I put a portal together for, if you like, the emotional side and information and wishes and memories for people. And you're now bringing in that legal. So together, we're actually trying to make sure that people can have that covered with the portal that should be coming by the end of the month, end of June, sorry, as we are only just at the end of May. But you and I no doubt will have another chat and tell people about that nearer the time.
I'd look forward to that. And the portal is fantastic. It has military grade software. So nothing can be 100%, but I know so many people who have books with notes in their homes with passwords, etc. And the chance of a break-in and somebody acquiring those passwords is very real. With the portal that we are putting in place, that would be negated. And things like the latest copy of a will, that would be uploaded to the portal. So that would avoid any confusion as to which will is actually in place.
Yeah. I know you saying about the notes. I had my children around at the weekend and we were talking and I was on the computer and I said, okay, I need you to come and have a look at this. This is the password document. This is what you would need if anything ever happens to me, because death conversations obviously are very normal in my house. And one of them came up and I said, yeah. And they said, well, we've got access to your computer. I said, yeah. And this is in my drive. And they said, do we have access to that? And even although I know it's written in my will for them to have access to it. So yes, that is written there for them. The password actually to get into the drive and into my computer. It was the fact that they didn't just know it. And they said, well, that's fine, Mum, but we can get into your computer, but we can't get into that drive. And I said, well, actually, it is in the will and the documents that I have for you, and they know where that file is. Again, the house goes up in smoke. It's all gone, computer and all. So things do need to really be in a cloud or somewhere, but it is all about security, isn't it? And making sure that people's information is safe to them. And what I like about what we're doing is even you and I can't see information they put in. It's private to them only until they die, and in which case then it becomes visible.
Absolutely, yes. As you say, it's totally private until they pass away or they lose capacity, and the trusted people, if they've got powers of attorney, would need then to have access to that kind of information so that the best decisions can be made in the donor's best interest.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a very, very important thing, and the sooner that we can bring this and launch it properly, the better.
Yeah, well, I think also for £2 a month or £20 a year, which is our starting price with this portal, I do think it will bring so much security for such a small amount, as we're working on the affordable and forgettable. So it just goes out as part of the bills and know that everything's there and secure. So yeah, also very excited for us to get that launched.
Absolutely.
Anyway, Rob, thank you very much for the time today. If people want to speak to you and they want to organise a meeting to, again, talk to you about any will reviews or your services or having the free consultation with you, how'd they get hold of you?
Right, well, they can get me. I'll give you a mobile number, and my mobile is on 24 hours a day, because I can be called out to do a deathbed will, and I have been. So the mobile number is 07926 559 240.
Okay.
The office number is 01869. And I need to remember this, 222679. Or the email address.
It's funny, isn't it? Because now we're so used to the mobiles, we forget the office numbers.
Yeah. Well, yes, that's our Oxford office. We do have an office in Warwick as well, but the numbers would all come through. So out of office hours, the number will transfer through to my mobile. But if they want to drop me a line, an email, they can get me at info@mytrustedwills.co.uk.
Okay, and that's the same as the website, which is mytrustedwills.co.uk. And I will put the information at the end anyway. So thank you very much for your time today and having a pat chat with me.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.
Yeah, I can't find out how to switch it off now.
All right, I haven't
So